world's most sensitive stomach. And I don't usually get to eat with everybody, but it's okay. You know why? Because somebody's got to do the talking. And if I'm eating the whole time, I can't talk. So we just discovered that I know Brian from way back.
Are you serious?
So we were in there chatting this whole time because he goes, do you remember meeting me at First Baptist like 15 years ago?
Wow.
He goes, you're friends with Denise and Richard Kelly. And I said, oh, am I friends with Denise and Richard? So Denise and Richard are dear friends of ours, best friends of Brian and his wife. And Richard was a builder. And his wife, yes, his wife hired me as a designer, and Richard did not like me. Because, hang on, he does not like designers. And so after like the third time I met him, I said, here's the deal, Richard. I am a builder. I come from 5 generations of home builder. I'm not some like sneaky designer. Like, I'll be able to help you design, but I can help you build too. And then I won him over. And then he knew I knew his lingo. And then we did building projects together. And then we built houses together. And so anyway, so Brian was like, oh, we go way back. So we're actually going to come out and chat with Brian and Debbie and Kent either next week or the week after.
Awesome.
So, because I was like, I want to know your story too, because here's the deal. They helped step in. I know, because you want to hear this? This is so crazy. So this is how much I know about the story. I was working at Miss Debbie's because I was their designer. And we were working on their back outdoor kitchen. And Debbie and Kent were sitting at the bar and they were talking about something. I was like, ooh, are y'all doing some decorating? What are y'all talking about? They're like, we are trying to figure out how to save our local restaurant. We're all going to go in and figure out how to buy this restaurant. And I was like, you guys know how to, you guys are restaurateurs, you know what you're doing? And they were like, no, we don't. We've never, like, no, none of us know the restaurant industry. He goes, but the owner's daughter is still here and she would be running it. And so I knew about you years ago before I even, you know what I mean?
Before we met.
Yes, isn't that?
That's exciting.
It's kind of fun. Like, it's like the whole world. It's a small world. So I knew about this whole restaurant way back when.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So we were reading the story on the menu a little bit. The story.
Did you read the story? My parents bought this grocery store called Shortcut Grocery. And they did all right for a while till the big, like the big stores, like at that time I think it was In System and Furs, I think it was.
Furs.
And they decided to stay open later, like 10. We did real well because they closed at 8, then we stayed open till 12. But once they started staying open later, we didn't do real well. So what Dad we had he cut the meat and so for my mom, and Mom said, okay, I'm gonna start cooking little deli. And so she started with burritos, and she did Frito pies and burgers and just different varieties of Mexican food. Well, how we got discovered were Cedras is located this way.
And that's the elementary school.
Elementary school. Back then, it was okay to be off campus. It
For meals.
wasn't dangerous like it is right now. And so the children started at lunch coming here, and we were still a grocery store. So Dad had the meat market and would cut meat for Mom. And so they would come in and get chili dogs, burritos, hot dogs, and then of course we had the drinks and chips because we were still a grocery store. So the children brought parents. And so then the parents started coming in with the child, and then they wanted a little place to maybe eat here.
Oh.
You know, they had to take their food back or eat, you know, wherever they could. so that's basically how we got started. Mom cooking, and the children from Cedras bought parents. So the parents started asking us, how about putting in the tables? And so then they started with one table, and then added another table, and then so Dad decided to get a small business loan, and you still have to have, so the Denigans at that time were Coca-Cola.
Okay.
Big Coca.
We learned about that whole Coca-Cola operation and bottling plant when we visited the museum.
Wonderful.
It was cool.
Okay, so they believed in us, and they were the ones that were able to finance us and make this, the grocery store completely. 1976, we went completely restaurant. And so Fermin's loves children. You know what the Lord said, let the children come.
Oh, yes.
And that's how we feel, let the children come.
Yeah.
Because we are here because of their love, bringing parents. And it's always been that way. My dad played the guitar. He'd sit up at the front and greet people. If you wanted a song, he'd play it for you.
How old were you when they converted to a restaurant?
I was 21 when I started. And 1976, how old was I? It was 1968 when they bought the restaurant.
Okay.
I mean, this grocery store. And I've been here, I'm 75, I've been here forever. And my family, we all worked every position there was to work here, from washing dishes, scrubbing floors, serving, cooking. We've been a family restaurant from day one.
That's awesome.
And
Weren't you in college? Did you tell me?
I was at Saul Ross when they bought the grocery store. And,
come home.
And Mom asked me for me to finish the semester and come.
Yeah.
And I didn't go back because this has been my life. I love my parents. They work really hard to become what this is today.
Yeah.
So my mom had lupus, and she got to where she couldn't come, and so Dad, I helped Dad. I took care of Mom till she passed away in '93. Dad stayed, and I told Dad, my mom made you famous, Dad. She was and you got the glory. But my dad was such a people person.
Yeah.
And he loved children too. So when he celebrated 90 years here when Ken and Brian and the rest of the investors came together because I couldn't no longer take care of it. I was taking care of my father, and things weren't going well for me, and they stepped in, and only by the grace of God, because they have their own successful businesses. So the other investors loved us. I feel loved us so much that they invested what it was theirs.
They did. There was some ownership in it. Like they were like, no, we have to keep it open because they do feel like they belong here.
I will forever be grateful. And they stepped in and remodeled it and brought Fermin's back to life. And we start crying.
It's okay.
Yeah, we'll just cry with you. It's okay. You can cry. We're a bunch of criers around here.
Thank you for doing this. It's, you know, sometimes little places like Monahans.
Yeah.
To me, Monahans is a great place because you see all these wide open spaces and great sunsets, great people.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Take it if you need to.
Anyway, I can't say enough of the gratitude I feel that y'all are doing this move.
Quick question. How have you handled as a community place, the ups and downs of the oil industry?
Well, when you've been here all your life and this is what it's about, you tighten your belt and you survive because of the love we have. I don't think a lot of people maybe don't realize unless that you've lived here in the desert. There's a lot of beauty out here, and I think that you've seen families that depend on us,
Yeah.
and it's part of our lives, and we help each other.
You just help each
Like they helped me
Yeah.
other. Yeah.
to survive.
And that's something.
And that's, I don't know that if you're in a big city, like I was at church and I was waiting for a ride, so I stepped out and was waiting, and 3 different cars stopped to give me a ride. Is that awesome?
Yeah, yeah. You can do that here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pluses, and what we try to do is, like I said, do whatever it takes because, you know, the Lord has a place for us and places like us.
Yeah.
We're kind of like the backbone, even though you
Uh-huh.
don't see
Yeah,
it.
yeah. We need you. Yep.
We do need small towns, and we need that genuine hospitality and concern for one another. So we're not doing this show because we want people to thank us. We're doing the show because I'm so desperately thankful.
Yeah.
You know, our community like supported me and my boys when I was a single mom, and so it's the same story. It's people serving people.
Absolutely.
And that's how we exist. That's how we function. So we're doing the show out of a heart of thanks, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the Kent and the Debbies who fed the single mama when she was raising her boys, and all the people in the different communities. So we're thankful for it. I mean, that's why we just want to hopefully tell the story of when you walk with people, everyone wins.
Absolutely.
So that's the heart of the show. So we've been working at Eddie Nelms.
He's a great guy, Eddie Nelms. He's married to my cousin.
So we've been with Brenda this morning.
She's a Vasquez and I'm a Vasquez through my father.
Okay.
Wonderful.
And so Eddie's a pretty awesome man. Has done so much for Monahans, just like Kent and Brian and the other investors. We love Monahans, but not only Monahans, we fellowship with our surrounding towns. And who's had such a terrible accident, and I think all of us came together, not like rivals, but like family.
Yeah. Good.
To help, the families that lost, their grandchildren, and which is near and dear to my heart. Like I said, Fermin loves children. We started with children, and I'm like the old woman in the show. I've got so many kids. They go away to college, they get married, and then they bring their children here.
That's awesome.
That is so awesome, and
I feel like in some ways what I took, because I'm not originally from West Texas. I'm originally from the coastal southern areas. And one of the things I noticed when I first moved to West Texas is it's not necessarily Midland or Monahans or Andrews or Crane or Lubbock. It's West Texas.
West Texas.
It's like this big community, and you walk with one another. You just walk with one another.
We do, and that's the beauty of it. I feel my sister, one of my the ones that were here, she was a beautician, but she worked like across the street right there, and then she'd come at lunchtime and help serve. She lives in Levelland now, but even as far as Levelland,
Yeah, it's
We
up that way.
It's West Texas.
Yeah.
And they're Lobos just like we are.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, so we have a question. We were walking up, I was like, look, it's a Lobo footprint. And I was walking in it. And Tori's like, what's a Lobo? I was like, I don't know. So what's a Lobo? What's the Monahan Lobo? Because I don't know.
That's our mascot. That's what we are. And like you see, we have different varieties of their basketball, their track, and these are all Lobos. The Lobo ad.
Is it an animal?
Uh-huh. It's a Lobo. It's like a wolf, you know.
Okay, a Lobo is a type of wolf. Did anybody else know that?
I
No?
did not.
No, okay. All right, so it's a wolf.
And so yeah, it's who we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you can see, and the kids want to be in here. You can tell.
Yeah.
We're loaded with. They all want to be in here.
We've decided we're going to do a team picture, and we're going to start putting it places that we go.
That's awesome.
If people want our
That's
picture, it might be weird. It's the creepy people.
We anyway, whenever, even though we play against each other, but whenever something like this happens, like it happened to Andrews, then all the West Texas the schools came together to support them, and they support us, and we're out here and we love each other, and I can't say enough of being a small town girl.
Yeah.
I was born in Grand Falls, which is not too far from here. And you'd think there's a lot of water, but there's no water out there.
No water in
Grand
Grand Falls. Grand Falls. Tell us about your family now. So where's your family? Where's everybody at?
My sister, my baby sister, Esther, lives with me. My sister, Anita, lives in Levelland. My brother just retired from the city of Midland. He lives
Okay.
in Midland, so that. But and then my son works for Doc's Reverse Unit Reynolds, and now and then, if I'm shorthanded, he'll step in and help me. He's a volunteer fireman and loves Eddie.
We're learning everyone loves Eddie.
Maybe this
Everybody loves
episode. Everybody loves
Everybody loves Eddie, yeah. So
He's a pretty great guy, and so that's. I have a niece that's the Harkey Funeral Home Director. She grew up here. She can step in any position now if she was needed, but she's got her hands
Pretty
full
good job there.
at the funeral home, and so we all our children grew up here from babies. They all worked here, and I've got my other manager's supposed to be here. She grew up here. She's worked every position. She's now one of the managers. I hope she gets here so y'all can meet her.
we're in no hurry.
Great.
We're good.
What is next for Fermin's? Who?
I know that. I've been thinking at 75. I talked to Brian. I said, Brian, we need to see where, like you said, where this is going. Brent and Ken, they're pretty great guys. They're great friends.
Hang on, I have to tell you, he was pretty protective of you over the phone.
He was?
Yeah, this was cute. So I'm in there, and
He knows I'm a crier.
he said, will you just be careful with Miss Lily, okay? And I said, we will. Like,
I think
duly warned.
I think they. That's why we're here. That's why I'm here today.
Yeah.
There's no way I could have kept Fermin's going without them. Without them and all the ones that stepped in and made Fermin's possible today. And their family and their family and their family and Ken's kids when they're in town.
Those are great kids.
Yeah.
I have a feeling based on conversations with Kent and Debbie, and even now just Brian, that when you are ready to kind of retire and maybe take it a little easy, I don't think Fermin's ever going to go anywhere. I don't think your community is going to allow it to go anywhere. Just so you know, I would almost be willing to put money that it's just going to keep on going.
I'm grateful for that. They were young. boys in here, Ken and Brian, and you know, the both. I'll have to tell you about Kent. Kent.
Tell us
and
about
his
Kent.
son, when we first opened, well, we had dishes everywhere, couldn't keep up. So they stepped in and said, "Oh, you should have seen Kent, bless his heart." I think it was till 1 or 2 in the morning when we finished the first day we opened, and Kent stayed right in there. And you talk about they don't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
You know, they. And
I can't even imagine kids doing dishes at all.
Yes. I mean, they worked side by side. My sister came from Levelland, and she was washing dishes. They were washing dishes, and his son was washing dishes, and I, at 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, their tongue was out here.
Yeah.
Can I ask, how did it feel? Because I feel like in some ways we're kind of experiencing some of the emotion and some of the joy of reopening. How did it feel for you the day you guys reopened?
Well, for one thing, my dad was not quite 90. Well, we opened in June, and my dad turned 90 in July. But to see the joy in my father's face, he was in a wheelchair at the end. So we had him sitting up front where he usually did, had his guitar there. And he went in his wheelchair all the way around, greeting everybody that was here. And my dad was a people person. He loved from children too. And to see that is, I can't tell you the gratitude I felt at the time to see your father that worked so hard to make it Fermin's, and then for the wonderful people that came together to reopen it. I can't tell you enough of what my heart felt that day. To see my father, my mom had already passed away. The joy. He played again. He was able to play the guitar.
Yeah, absolutely. So did he play the guitar when he was here that night?
He played the guitar.
Do you guys have pictures? It's probably so crazy just trying to keep
their picture. I don't have him playing the guitar. I haven't got anything to bring it, but he would, like, his friends would bring their guitars and they would all play.
Oh, how nice.
I mean, it didn't matter what time of day or night. Bring your guitar, let's play. And that's what happened. They'd be playing the guitar with my dad. And that's what I felt.
That's a big deal. That's a really big deal.
To see the joy and the I mean, I looked around and I thought, is this for real, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you and then my children, I see my children from Sadreth grown and bringing their children and third generations of children that still come to Fermin.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
That's a big deal. That's a legacy. It's your dad's legacy.
It is. It is, and they gave so much so that we could have, you know. They gave, my parents gave and gave and gave and gave. There was, this lady came in and she had an onion. And she asked my dad, could you boil this onion for me? She said, I'm hungry and I don't even have a stove. And my dad said, he said, keep your onion, I'm gonna feed you. And she sat down and she ate a really good, we didn't know who she was or anything. But Dad did a lot of that. If you were hungry, say you're hungry, and he fed. one Christmas we had a family that their car broke down, and it was a weekend, nothing was open. So Daddy brought them in. We were having Christmas here, and it was still in the process of being store and restaurant.
Through the transition.
So they talked to my dad. Dad said, "Bring in your gifts." They brought in their gifts. We fed them with ours. We were feeding, and in the corner there, they had their Christmas until the next day when it was open, so they could get their car fixed. So we shared Christmas with them, and then they were able to give their kids it was Christmas Day.
Wow.
You know that family still remembers that as a big
they'll
Christmas
never
for
forget.
them. You know they have to, right? Those kids have to remember that. Like it was probably, it's a big deal. That's cool. Yeah.
So that's like, now it seems like a dream, that
How many years ago do you think that was?
it's 53 that I've been going on 54 in September. 54 years.
Do you get to take vacations? I hope you get to take vacations, Miss Lily.
I take if my sister, we had a best friend, and she was in a home, and she worked here, and she could take about 50 orders and not have to write them down. She was pretty famous here.
So was the waitress, the sweet waitress, we all were like, did she write your food down?
Yes.
She didn't write anything down?
Yes, that was her.
Oh,
Well, she was real sick, and so we took time and went to see her twice. She's passed away. She was pretty famous, and
I'm sorry.
that's okay. And
It's hard.
her dream was for us to go see her, and she had no one. We did. We took time. I'm not a vacation person.
You're a homebody?
But we hope to see another friend this summer. We want to go see a friend in Albuquerque.
Albuquerque's pretty nice.
So I'm hoping to. My niece is taking me to. I'm a big Ranger fan, Texas Ranger fan, and so she's gonna treat me. My birthday was in March, but she's gonna treat me to a Ranger game.
That's fun.
That's
I'm
nice.
so excited about that.
Will you eat a hot dog while you're there?
Yeah.
As long as you're going to eat a hot dog while you're there.
Excited.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I mean, they're doing for me, my family, because I'm the oldest, and they're kind enough to listen. They're kind enough to listen, and so they've been real good to me. And Brian and Kim have been real good to me. They kind of just, want me to greet people, and Brian, they don't tell me I'm supposed to be here at a certain time or anything. They've just been awesome. I'm very grateful, and so.
I think this community is very grateful for you.
Yeah.
So you know that.
I
think it's reciprocal.
A lot of wonderful people that make my day.
That's cool.
They come, the little ones come and hug me, and that just makes my day. That's the greatest gift that they could ever give me. Come remember me. And just recently, just a while ago, I had one of my kids. He was sitting over there. He got up to give me a hug, and that just made my day.
Yeah.
And there's my boss over there. Did you recognize Brian?
No. I only met him like one time in a church booth.
I didn't realize he
Hey,
was
well, come sit
there.
down. Come hang out with us. I'm sorry. We would have had y'all come sit over here. She was making us cry. She made us cry. I'm sorry, Brian, this is my crew. So that's my director who's running off. This is Luke. Cindy is one of my helpers. She's just been with me forever. Tori's our operations manager. Adam is one of our cinematographers. This is Carm, producer. And Luke ran away. And so I feel like we're missing somebody. Sydney ran away too. She's also. Well, yeah, it was just, we lost her. She gone. She's just.
This is one of my kids.
Come on.
Been here.
Well, they can y'all eat while we're chatting. I told them
The
to
other
eat.
manager.
You can let that get cold. It's gonna be good.
We just got in gross.
We were,
It's
yeah, it was a little bit
wonderful.
enthralling to hear the
Yeah.
whole story. But I told her, I was like, I'm not eating, so chat with me. Okay, so how long have you been here? You guys, please eat.
I started when I was 15 in 2013, so in November this year I'll be here for 9 years. Or
Wow.
9 or 8.
Because it's your home.
Yes.
Yes.
This is just like family to me. It's just my everyday routine.
Let's just lie.
So Brian gave her the manager's job. She's worked every position in here.
So I was also a waitress, busser, bartender, done all the things. So is my niece. What do you dislike most?
Probably dishes.
Yeah, that was
I
really
guess. I think everyone would say that.
Yeah, don't like to bus. Okay, well, since you're sitting here, now you're stuck with us. Tell us your heart behind making sure that this opened back up.
Well, I mean, it was a big deal back in, when the family had to close the restaurant down, and the community did not want to see it stay
Yeah.
closed. And there was a group of people that got together, were having meetings, trying to figure out how to raise money and get the place reopened again. And somebody invited me to a meeting. I don't know if that was Lily, or I don't remember how I got involved. But anyway, I went to a meeting, and then I invited Kent McDaniel to a
Yep.
meeting,
Yep.
and then the rest was history after that. So we were committed to we didn't really know what we were getting into. Neither of us had ever had any restaurant experience other than eating a lot of food in restaurants.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But so we came into the building as it was at the time and realized that we had raised not nearly enough money. So anyway, we took this structure to the concrete, to the block walls, to the
Wow.
to the metal roof, and basically took all the walls out and just started from scratch. And rebuilt the entire structure, brand new.
But you have construction experience.
No.
No.
I don't have construction experience.
No construction experience. How are you friends with Richard Kelly?
Richard and I we met.
It was
at
from the Camelback.
Camelback.
That was the Camel. Okay, for everybody else, I'm sorry, I know this whole story. This is freaking fascinating. This is totally different than the show. I'm sorry, but so everybody.
Well, it's West Texas.
It is West Texas. This is a fabulous story because when you find out just tell the story.
Okay.
I'm not even gonna ruin it.
You want the story of Camelback?
Yes.
Okay. Everybody's familiar with the backpack hydration systems known as Camelback, which pioneered backpack hydration. Well, the concept was invented by a paramedic on the Odessa Fire Department.
Isn't that freaking awesome? Can you?
The guy was a novice road cyclist. He went to Wichita Falls for what they call the Hotter Than Hell 100 bicycle ride every year. And he, like all the other cyclists, he had his water bottle in the cage down close to the 130-degree pavement. And the first time he went to take a drink, he was a paramedic, and it was scalding, and he said there's got to be a better way. And so he actually came back to Odessa, and the initial concept was he took a cycling jersey, he sewed a pocket on the back. He took an IV bag, which he had access to as a paramedic. He inverted it in this pocket and then just bought a ball and spring valve off the shelf at a hardware store. And then that was the original concept. And so Richard Kelly, who she knows well, and
Richard Kelly is a dear friend of ours, which I'll probably have to get his permission now to use his name on the show because he wasn't
you can
here.
have this. You can use
I guess I can use his
I'll
name.
give you
You'll vouch for him. He's an inventor, entrepreneur, but he's a builder. That's how he and I are friends because we were both in construction. But anyway.
And so that's how Richard and I actually got together.
So did you call him? Did he call you?
Well, what happened was how Richard got involved was he and a couple of other guys, one that was a longtime mentor of mine that I grew up working for here in Monahans. He owned the ice company. Started working for him when I was 14, worked all through school, came back, worked the summer, and he actually helped put me through college.
That's cool.
And well, he had sold his business, was basically retired. And he and Richard and Gary Whitehead, who was partners with Richard and
Dear friend.
Armstrong,
Jerry, yeah.
Jill is one of
They,
my mentors.
they were partners in it was a concept of Shelftronic coupon dispensers.
Yes, so you know where you take the little coupon?
You go to the grocery store, it's got
Yeah.
the coupon right there, you take one
Those
and another one
Richard
comes out
Kelly
automatically. Well, they were behind that project, the original concept. And when Richard ran into one of his old Permian high school percussion classmates, who was the man who actually had come up with the idea for the Camelback. And
Okay.
he was talking to Richard about trying to find investors for the project. And Richard just suggested that he present the project to him and the other two guys that we
That's
just
cool.
talked about. And so they ended up working out a deal there. And that was back in, I guess, about 1989. And that was the time when I was moving from Houston back out to Odessa to get out of the city and back to the desert.
Yeah.
And that's how I started trying to help them develop this product into a marketable concept. And so basically I was with Richard doing that until, well, in 94 we moved the company to Weatherford, and in 95 it was sold to a company out of San Francisco.
And I've seen pictures of Richard and who's the cyclist that I can't believe I don't know his name, the famous guy,
Lance.
Lance Armstrong with a Camelback. And then they sold it.
Yeah, we got to meet a lot of interesting
Neat
people through the
people,
years.
yeah. He's
Camelback, a lot of world-class downhill mountain bikers, because the product, for road cyclists, there's a lot of fashion involved. And wearing an oxygen, why do I need an oxygen tank? What is that thing on your back?
Yeah.
It's kind of a hard sell. And, but we did, at the time, we did studies at the wind tunnel at Texas A&M University. We did biological impact on cooling your body and proper hydration at the U.S. Olympic Cycling Center at the University of Colorado there at Colorado Springs. We were trying to do all this scientific data to prove that you need this.
Yeah.
And then they still didn't care.
But now everybody has them.
And so what we ended up doing is we ended up hiring a marketing company to create a new logo and rebrand it and just make it cool. And as soon as we made it cool, then everybody wanted it.
Took off.
Yeah.
So that's
The
where
rest is history.
We all have Camelbacks. So now they have the bottles, Camelbacks on everything.
Yeah, we created a term called the unbottle, for the Camelback.
Oh.
And then after everybody, of course the competition, everybody's got backpack hydration now, and so then now they're back on the bottle.
Yeah.
But it's got their bite valve, which the bite valve was the key to the whole product. That was the patented piece of the whole idea. And
That's crazy.
So that's what made it such a great product.
Who was the Odessa fireman that you were referring to?
His name was Michael Edson,
Mike Edson?
DSO, yeah. And I don't know where he is
So
anymore.
Kyle probably knows him.
Well, I was a pastor in Odessa from 1985 to 2007, and
Okay.
fire chaplain and all of that. So all those guys,
Okay.
we've bumped into them, I'm sure.
Yeah, he and there was actually two of them that were on the patent, but I don't think I ever even met the other guy. His name was Dale Henderson, I think.
Eat. You'll have to eat.
I think he.
It's delicious.
But
It
those
is
two worked
delicious.
together.
Not a problem. I'm like, please eat. I actually have a sensitive stomach, so I'm pretty much doing liquids this week. So I told Miss Lily, I was like, sit with me. I'm not eating either way, so it's fine.
Yeah, one time we had a guy, he showed up at my office. We design and build military products, tactical nylon now. We have a business here in town.
Okay, cool.
Me and a guy that we hired at Camelback many years ago. And, but this man and his wife showed up at my office out here, and they were from Australia. And he said, we just, we flew to the States, and we landed up close to San Francisco, and we did a tour here, and then we flew here, we're doing a tour here. We're spending so much time in the United States seeing things that we picked out over the number of years, and we wanted to come to your place to see exactly what a place where everything is 100% made in the USA actually looks like.
Wow.
And it came from Australia, and I said, and we hadn't been open long here, so it was probably about 2012, 2011. And so I said, well, let me buy y'all dinner. And so then we bring them over here, and they're like, well, We're vegetarians.
No, look, you have cheese quesadillas. You can feed vegetarians here.
I said,
That's fine.
okay, so Michael Dominguez, he came out of the kitchen, he was chef in the back. And so they talked about the menu and what products went to make what. So we fixed them up. They had stuff to go. They hit the road and took off. So anyway.
So why did you decide to come to, do you live in Monahans now?
I do.
Okay, why'd you come back to Monahans?
Because we have the Santos.
What does that mean?
That doesn't mean anything. I just made that up. That's a lie. But we do have the Santos, and most people don't.
I appreciate that kind of humor. That's funny because the Sand Hills, hello.
Yeah.
We actually tried to film out there today. We're coming back in May because couldn't fly the drone. Pretty much everything we were going to do today just really didn't happen. But we got some things done at Eddie's. How we chose Monahans was just I go based on relationships. Like if I know someone in a town, it's like, hey, well let's do active service in the town, and there's small acts of service. The heart behind the show is the story of Fermin's. It's when we walk with each other, everybody benefits, and it doesn't have to be huge. Just like these small acts of kindness. So we just go into different areas and go, how can we serve that community on some small level? Not huge, because the average American doesn't have, like you see some of those shows where they go rebuild someone's house. Well, that's entertainment, but it's not life-changing because nobody can do it. But we can teach people how to use spray paint to redo a porch, or how to gather dog food for the local humane society, or how to support a volunteer firefighter. So we did a social media giveaway saying, hey, tell us who you love in Monahans who serves the community. We're going to do just a seasonal porch refresh, touch up paint, plant flowers, just get a whole bunch of volunteers, and we're going to go serve it. We do it on a very low budget, number one, because I own a TV show and I have no budget, but number two, most people don't have money. In Midland, we're a little spoiled because we probably sit at a $10,000 table a month, because that's what we do. We buy big tables, and we have these big events, which is great, and there's a place for it. Most people can't do that, but they can hold a paintbrush. So we had these different people nominated. Tori and I had to go through them. It was hard because there was a lot of really good nominees out here. And then we landed on Eddie and Brenda because Brennan just was like, this is my mom and dad. This is what they've done for the community. They live in a single wide trailer. They have a metal porch. It's nothing really nice, but I'd love to do something nice for them. And so, which is in turn, as we've started the process, Eddie told Kyle today, he was like, well, y'all lit a fire in front and underneath me, because he painted the whole outside of his house, because we were going to come paint it. Like, I was like, I know it said Porch Refresh, but I can get a volunteer committee together. I said, and I promise I won't do a crappy job. I was actually a builder for 20 years. But we can come paint it. And he was like, no, and they painted it. And so we've been, just having fun over there, and hopefully inspiring people who hear the show or watch the show and hear the stories to go, you know what? It's not just changing Lily's life, it's changing everybody's life in the community when you decide to do these things. And so aside from it just being me and my friends doing acts of service, it's like we want to tell stories too, because that's really where I think the inspiration to go, I could do that. We want people to watch it and go, I could do that. I don't want it to be just entertainment, although we know a lot of people may not step out and do it because that's reality. But even if a couple people do, it's, so that's our hope.
It's a great idea.
So, here we go. We're on episode 7. Cross your fingers, folks. So,
Let me tell you what I did to my boss.
Uh-oh.
He's a twin. You remember? He walked in and I said, oh, you got a different look. And I thought it was the other brother. And he said, I'm Brian. And I said, yeah, right. My boss. So he takes out his ID.
I wasn't at the time. It's when I was just coming back
Yeah.
to Monahans. My
I thought it was
still here.
his brother, because his brother spent a lot of time here with me. And I said, you got a new look when he walked in.
that's hysterical. So you didn't know he was a twin. You didn't know he had a twin. So your brother didn't talk about you very much as what we've garnered from this conversation.
Yeah, I figured that out after I got back too.
Okay, so back to
brother.
sincerely, why'd you come back to Monahans?
Well,
If it's not personal.
no, I mean, I grew up, I was
just
born
home.
here, raised here, graduated from school here, and then moved off. And but what happened was there was a 32,000 square foot manufacturing facility out here right off the Loop Road. That the city of Monahans, when the 4A, 4B sales tax, economic development stuff was first coming around, it was the first big project that they did. And they had recruited a military sewing contractor from the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area to expand to Monahans. And they had calculated at the time that the wage rates that they would pay here, that if they calculated their contracting quote bids at wage rates here, that they would land about 30% more contracts than what they were able to get in the high wage areas up in Pennsylvania. And so they landed in Monahans, and it was a 40-year-old successful company, husband and wife. They both got sick really right away, and a son took over, and basically within a year had destroyed it. And so my current business partner, he's living, well actually I guess he was living wherever Camelback was. He did worldwide market development for Camelback for years. He lived in Europe for 3 months a year, made movies for the Outdoor Life Network, mountain biking the Inca Trail, doing all kinds of stuff. And but I ran into him in Odessa, and so he and I started talking about, we had totally different strengths and weaknesses, complementary.
Good.
And so we talked about trying to do something on our own. So we were actually trying to develop some products for the cycling industry. And some of them were going to have to be sewn products. And so we had come over here and toured this facility while it was operating. And it was funny when we walked out that day, he said, yeah, someday we'll own this. Yeah, it's a joke. And in the end, they weren't there much longer. And so we came over and we met with the EDC board. We met with the president of the bank that had foreclosed on the building, and we put a package together, and we basically went to work trying to build stuff for other people.
Wow.
And within 6 months, we had created our own brand of products called Spec Ops brand that was going to be marketed to the military, law enforcement, things like that.
That's awesome.
The rest is history.
So you are a serial entrepreneur. A little bit.
I'm glad you added that word. I want a cereal word.
Cereal what?
I happened to be on the board, economic board, when they presented it to us.
Yes, that's right.
I was
Lily was on the board
a
of the
believer.
NEDC.
You were a believer. That's cool. That's awesome.
And then we wound up like this. That's what I'm saying. I was asking him for his ID, and now he's my boss,
That's sweet.
It's just revolved.
It's a big, small world.
It is a big, small world. That's what we're learning through all this. It's been fun as we're getting into towns. Everybody knows everybody. All their stories are intertwined. I think we miss that sometimes in the bigger cities. And I just think it makes it a little bit harder when you don't really know who you can reach out to for support. So I like small towns. It's a little bit easier.
Well, I can take my business partner that I have with the military stuff. He lives in Odessa, but he grew up on the eastern shore of Maryland, on the Chesapeake Bay.
Wow.
I'm a Chesapeake Bay girl,
Okay.
born and raised.
He's adopted. His dad was a World War II veteran, prisoner of war, and came back to the United States. And he actually has a Japanese sister who was also adopted after World War II, which was not really the thing to do at the time, obviously.
Yeah.
And so his sister is a nurse practitioner at Johns Hopkins University's Medical. And then he had 3 older brothers that were actually biological. One's got dental clinics, one was a Microsoft engineer or something, and the other one was an executive with Cisco Foods, actually up in the Northeast. And but anyway, so he's got a good story. But he grew up there, and when we met him during Camelback, he was racing bicycles out of West Palm Beach, Florida. lived on the beach. He was a beach bum, a cyclist, living the dream. Grew up on Chesapeake Bay, commercial fishing, commercial hunting guide, everything. And then he came out here. The way he ended up out here, this is kind of a cool story too. We noticed that everywhere he went, people were interested in Camelback at the time, and it was back in the early days. We would send him and his team products, and then people were calling about the product. And so we would fly him to trade shows in Las Vegas, Anaheim, California, the big international bike show, just different things. We just throw him in the booth. We'd pay his expenses to get there, and he'd get free super duper titanium stuff from every manufacturer there for his own bike, and that was all he wanted.
That's funny.
A place to sleep and just talk to people. And so anyway, we'd put him in the booth and just generate interest, and it was a great deal. And one year, it was we were trying to get into the winter sports, downhill snow skiing, snowshoeing, things like that. So we were in Reno, Nevada at a outdoor retailer trade show, winter market, and so we had a whole day to kill when the show was over. So he and I and our boss were out at Park City. We went out early in the morning just to hang out there, and we're sitting there drinking coffee, eating breakfast. And he says, "Why don't y'all just buy a motorcycle and I'll just tour the country, promote Camelback?" We're like, "Yeah, that's pretty stupid. We're going to do that." So we bought this BMW 1200cc motorcycle with saddlebags, and of course he contacted everybody in the outdoor industry. They sent him a sleeping bag that would fit in your pocket that's good to 50 below zero. He just all this super high-tech stuff. He took the bike to a fab shop in Florida, and they custom made a rack so he could carry his mountain bike on the back. So he had this motorcycle with his mountain bike and these black leathers, and he had these berets made that said "Hydrate or Die," which was our slogan for Camelback at the time, and he'd walk into these bicycle shops. He looked like death coming out. He's a big guy, in shape. He'd walk in the door and they'd be like, but then he just starts talking to you. And I think he may have slept on one picnic table the whole time he was on the road for 9 months living on that motorcycle. People would just take him home. They feed him, put him in bed.
That is hysterical.
And so he was just having a good time, just living on the road. We called it Operation Hydration. And it was basically a 9-month marketing
Because it made
campaign.
it official once you gave it a name, right?
He made the cover of some bicycling magazines, and so it was pretty cool. But in the end, we went up back to Reno. No, we were in Salt Lake City for that outdoor retailer show, and then we were sponsoring a big cross-country motorcycle event in Las Vegas right afterwards. So I flew to Vegas. He rode the bike down. We put it in a booth there outside, and these teams from all over the world came, including a motorcycle racing team out of Australia that we sponsored. So we met them there. It was a fun time. And then when the event was over, he rode the motorcycle to Odessa. We sold the bike, and then he became a resident of Odessa.
It's been there ever since.
And then there.
Stop.
Yeah, well, no, when we moved it, he moved to Weatherford, and then he basically lived, like I said, Europe for 3 months a year. He, was just everywhere, and he could live anywhere in the world that he wanted to. His job didn't demand that he live a specific place, and but in the end, he chose to come back to the desert. After living in West Palm Beach, Florida, when I met him, growing up on the Chesapeake Bay, he speaks fluent French, spent a lot of time in France and Europe. And but in the end, he said, "There's no place that I want to be but there in West Texas."
Cool.
So when I have a long story, but shortly after my family realized, after I moved to Midland, because I followed my ex, that he was not there, and it's just me and my 3 children. It was about 6 months into it, and they could not understand, because we're coastal girls, like island, Anyway, they were like, "You have to come home. Like, why would you stay there?" They just could not fathom it. And I said, "I can't. I think this is a good place for me and my boys." And so we stayed in Midland, and no one understood it. It was just like, you would go from the beach and the trees and Cindy and Joe, her and her husband, they came out to visit our church, and they're in New York, beautiful upstate New York. And they got here and they just knew this was where they were supposed to be, and no one could understand why. Why would you go to Midland from upstate New York? Like, to the point where all their kids came. It's impossible to explain the culture of unity that is West Texas unless you get here. And I hope we honor that with the show. I do.
I mean, we have to depend on each other.
Yeah.
We have to. Yeah, you have to. It's the only place in the world where you get kicked every 5 years and you got to get back up. And you expect it. And the only way to do it is together. Yeah.
So grateful to meet you and your husband also
Yeah.
in the crew.
Yeah.
You're
We had fun.
lovely lady.
You know.
Lovely lady.
We're glad you're here.
I'm so glad to meet all of you. It's been pretty special.